Hey guys! Welcome to another voiceover tutorial. My name's Akimi-chan. So this voiceover tutorial, we're just going to take it easy and we're going to cover a bit of anatomy, and I'm going to be teaching or sharing with you guys some of the stuff to keep in mind for anatomy, which is the shape and landmarks, which gives form to otherwise blob of shapes. So I have provided some references for you guys, and these references, we're going to make use of them for what we're gonna do. So prior to making this recording, I had a lot of trouble with my audio, and I couldn't figure out why I was making that high-pitched noise, and it was really annoying, but now I fixed it and we can move on to our tutorial. And I just want to thank you guys for the support so far. Alright, so enough of the pleasantries. We'll start. So I'm going to start by reviewing the basics, which is the proportions. So I found this image on Google, and it's pretty good reference. So this is the ideal proportion for males. It's usually 8 heads, but normal males, they can have 7.5 heads. So the head count doesn't really matter, because everyone's different and they have different heights. Some people can be 5 to 6 heads. Some people can be 8 heads, or I think models, they have 8 heads or 9 heads. But I do know that superheroes, they count up to 9 heads. So let's just use this guide right here. And the first thing, of course, is to draw the head. Oh, it's a little laggy on my end because I'm recording audio too. Alright, so you guys can follow this guide as well. It's pretty informative. So you have one head here. I'm going to be doing the skeleton from a 3 3/4 view, because then we can get a better feel of the muscles later on, and landmarks, sorry. So of course we have one head. It's really rough, by the way. So, and then we have the shoulders, which usually I like to represent by a line. I'll just make another duplicate so you guys can follow the steps. So for the torso, as you can see, which is this whole part here, easier way to represent that is just to make a kind of a box, like a slanted square-ish shape. And then we have this part, which is the belly, stomach. Just going to make another shape. You can represent it with whatever shape, but usually I find it's helpful with a normal square, so we're just going to do that. And then of course the pelvis. The pelvis usually represented by kind of like a slanted rectangle with a bit of triangular shape. So that's our pelvis, but keep in mind how many heads there are. So usually the chest area is 1 head down. So if you look at here, it's 1 head and 2 head, and that marks the end of the pecs, right? And so that's where it should be. And then another head down should be where the navel or the belly button is. Almost. Usually it's towards kind of the edge of where the third head will be. So first head, second head, and third head. And then the last head should be where the pelvis ends. So I'm just gonna duplicate this again. I have to delete these circles here. So now we're gonna do the legs, and we're still gonna be using basic shapes. And gonna make sure that our sketch is kind of balanced. So if we draw a line from her or his chin straight down, we're gonna have to make sure that both leg is kind of on either side of this line here, so that our character will be balanced. And now for the legs, I'm just going to use a simple kind of tapered long rectangle to represent the legs. This is pretty rough. So have one leg here, and the upper leg is around 2 head length down. So if you look at here, it's kind of like 2 heads of the length down. So just make sure it's around that length. And then we have the knee, which, I mean, you can represent it by a circle because it looks like a joint. And then after that, we're going to represent the other leg, which we can use the same shape we use for the upper leg. And then the length of the bottom leg is around 1 to 2 heads length. So if you look at here, it's around 1 to 2 head length, but it's a bit shorter. But I mean, some people have 2 head length, some people have 1.5 or so on. So it doesn't really matter how long you make the length of the bottom leg. Alright, so we have that, and then we have another joint here for the ankles, and then we have the feet. We can represent it by this shape right here, pretty simple. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the other side, so just keeping in mind it kind of matches. And then the leg here. So just making sure everything is kind of on the same wavelength. And now we're going to do the arms, which in school we just represented by the same skinny long rectangle. So the arms, as you can see, the elbow is kind of around the same, on the same line as the navel. So just make sure it's where it is. So you're gonna end it where the navel is. I'm gonna make another duplicate to show you guys. Alright, so we got that, and again we can put a circle here just to represent the elbow joint. And you guys don't need to put a circle every time, I just want to put it so you guys get the idea that it's there, and it's easy to understand when there's visuals. So just gonna repeat the same thing on the other side, and then the last thing is the hand. And as you've noticed, the hand the wrist kind of start where the crotch ends. So we're gonna make sure that that's the case. So here's the crotch, and here's the end of the wrist. We can put circles again for the wrist joint, and then the hand. So the hand, usually I just block it out with very simple shapes, like so. So now we have a basic guideline for everything. I know it's really messy, but we're going to take that and refine it later, so you guys get the general idea of proportion. And as you can see, it's pretty rough. You get the proportion and stuff, and starting to look like a human being, but not quite there because it doesn't have shape. Well, it has shape, but very simple. It's just the shape is not refined enough. And going to take this rough guide with rough standard shapes, and we're going to apply more of a human shape combined with human anatomy landmarks, which is kind of rib cage, hip bone, elbow, that sort of thing. So I'm just going to name my folder so that you guys can, it's not too many layers out at once. Okay, so I'm going to put that in here. Okay, I found this. So I'm just gonna move this. Whoops. Hold up. Okay, there we go. I'm just gonna move this guy down here so that we can concentrate on kind of start refining this guy a little bit. So this image, I found it on Google by Googling human anatomy muscles, and it's from Wise Geek, so you guys can go check out their stuff. I mean, there's a lot of these images out there on Google that can be very helpful, but it's always better to look at a real human being. The muscle overlay is actually just there so you know how the muscle flows with each other, but I would recommend like looking at pictures such as this where it's a real picture and you can kind of see how the muscle forms organically around. I mean, this the 3D render is not bad, but it does not represent a realistic, just the basic idea of how muscle would form, but it can be very helpful. So let's start with this guy. So after you completed your basic skeleton shape, very boxy, very basic, just make sure that it's kind of low in opacity, so now we can really start to apply those landmarks. So you don't need to worry too much about the head because that's not really what we want to focus on. We want to focus on learning about the landmarks and stuff. And my head is really ugly. The head I did is... Okay, so as you can see, the neck is the first landmark, and usually it's kind of like this. If you look at the muscles, it extends down. So I'm just gonna do actually I'm going to make the canvas a little bit bigger so we can add more details to it. Alright, so now it's a little bigger. I'm gonna make sure my brush has sharp dynamics on, so it's nice and sharp. I want to make this as clean and pretty as possible because usually I would not really put much detail onto the stage, but I want to make sure you guys get a good idea, and I'm gonna make sure my work is as clean as I can make it. So pretty much, again, we start by the neck, and as you can tell, there's muscle going down here. Just be aware that there is tendons from the neck going to the collarbone, so we're just going to simulate that with another shape. This is the collarbone. And after this, as you can see, there's other muscles going from the shoulder to the collarbone, so we're just going to kind of do like a nice taper round shape down here. And this is another landmark. Again, keep in mind that there is tendons going down. That's why you kind of see, well, I'll show you guys, okay, later, but just keep in mind there's muscle going down here, and then it's connected to the collarbone, right? So the collarbone is another landmark for the body, and if you indicate it a little bit in your character, it'll seem more realistic and more anatomically correct. So just keep in mind you need the collarbone mark. And then we have the torso. Let's look at the torso. The torso's landmark is the end of the pecs. This is one of the other landmarks you have to keep in mind. And we already marked it here, so it's easy, kind of easy to indicate. I think I have to make it more obvious that it's 3/4 because it's turning out to look like a frontal. And we don't want that, so. Alright, so I'm just going to move the neck here a bit more. Make sure the, what's it called? Oh, sorry, the collarbones, right? So we're just gonna mark the pecs. We can be pretty basic and boxy here. So this is the pec, pretty basic. And then the next one on the torso is the rib cage, which is not very clear here, but the rib cage should kind of start where the center of the pecs, and it kind of looks like this, so kind of a triangular shape. And this is where it kind of ends, is in sort of in the middle of between, sorry, I don't know how to explain it, but it's a little bit down from where the pec ends, so we're just going to repeat that on the other side. And again, the rib cage sometimes pop out a little bit. If you're skinny enough, it will show through a little bit. And I'm just going to indicate it more for the purpose of letting you guys know that that is an important landmark to show if you guys are concepting a character. And then the next one, the next landmark is of course the belly button. And it is of course 3 heads down. So this is where the belly button is. And as you can see, these are the ab muscles. And we can represent that roughly with shapes like this. Just making sure that it's there. And again, I know some of these lines are very like loud and standing out too much, but it's just a guide for you guys to keep in mind that it's there. And we're going to make sure on our next pass to kind of make them less visible. So now we have the pec, and then we have the waist. So depending on if it's a female or male, there's gonna be some differences, because male hip bones are a lot more narrow, but it's a lot more visible if the guy is skinny enough. You will see it. It will be more noticeable. So pretty much there is a bit of indent in here if it's a dude. And we're just gonna put that there. So this part, you should see it when it's nearing the pelvis area. So we're gonna put that there. And then again we have the crotch. So we can represent that by another triangular shape. And now for the muscles. This is the tricky part. So for the muscles, as you can see, there is one strip of muscle, that kind of wraps around the larger muscles over here, and we're gonna have to show that, but it will be less noticeable when you have skin over it. But for the sake of practice, let's make sure that we show that. So again, from the hip area right here, there's a line that kind of wraps around the larger muscles, and you can kind of see this muscle is behind this strap of muscle here, so just gonna like make sure it feels as if it's underneath it. And then there's another muscle here that kind of wraps around the leg. That muscle is kind of seen on the back as somewhere here, but we don't need to worry about that one too much because you don't really see it as much when you do a three quarters. So just wrap around. And another thing, when it comes to muscular legs, usually the side that like bulges out is the right side, this side right here. So usually I'm just gonna do a really quick sketch for you guys. So you have the crotch, I don't know what this is called, the guy's hip, and then you have the muscle that goes like this, and it's this side that's gonna bulge out just like this. So this side is pretty much remaining pretty flat compared to this side, which bulges out. You have the knees and everything. Alright, let's move on to this. So there's one muscle here on top, and there's two more that is a little lower, and it's this way because there's some ligament attaching to the knees here, and this kind of separates these two muscles and make them really excuse me, stand out. Sorry about that. Stand out a lot. So that's why you get these two definitions here. And then we have the knees. We can represent it by this quick shape for now. And then after that, this side will kind of descend like this. Just keep in mind that the leg is not completely straight, it's got some curve to it. And if we look at it from a 3/4 view, you'll see something like this where the leg is slightly curved like this. And then you have the muscles that descends, kind of curves around like this with this guideline here. And of course, there's this muscle right here. And this guy is kind of out of nowhere, but he's there. Well, he's not out of nowhere, but he just make sure that this guy is indicated properly, because I'm not sure what the muscle is called, but this is another landmark for the leg. So you have the muscle that is pretty smoothly kind of wrapping around the tibia, I think, the tibia bone here. But this muscle is like this. It ends here, and then it's got some other muscle kind of attached to the tibia bone. So make sure that you really indicate this little guy here, but not too much, just indicate it. And then we have the ankles. So the ankles, they kind of go down like this. So one side, you have to indicate one side that is a bit higher than the other side. And the way, actually, let me check up on that. Alright. Okay, never mind. Scratch what I said. So if we look at here, I'm still a bit confused, but I just noticed something. If we look at here, you can kind of tell that the ankle goes from up to down from the center. And then the muscle of the legs as well kind of has a slanted feel to it, from up to down to the center and then down to up. So altogether it kind of makes a frowny face. It's a pretty good trick to keep in mind. I saw that from another artist. I thought it was a pretty useful trick, so just keep that in mind. Down and then up. So just gonna make sure that the ankles is kind of like that. And then of course the feet, which I'm not gonna go too into because it's the feet and it's kind of like an extra detail we can talk about later. But that's pretty much it for the legs. So after that we're gonna have to repeat that on the other side. I'm just gonna do that real quick. So remember when I said that it kind of bulges out the other side and not the center? So I'm just gonna keep that. And again we have this stripe of muscle that wraps around, and this is actually one of the landmarks. So it wraps around like this, and then we have the knees. As you can see, remember this little guy here, this muscle that kind of gets sectioned off by the knee tendon. It's gonna be kind of like this. And then that's the knees. And then we have the legs. So from this side we really feel the leg muscle, which should be popping out like this. Should be like a big section. Oh, I think it might be a bit too low. Again, just making sure that everything is good enough. Remember when I said that the leg is not straight, it's always a bit curved like this. So here we're just going to curve the leg here slightly, and then make the just ease this part in a bit. We can add a bit of bulging on the leg. And again we have the ankles. Just gonna match it to one of them. And then the legs, I'm just going to make lines so to indicate where the sole ends. There we go. And that is the legs. It looks funny. Yeah, good enough, guys. It looks a bit funny. He looks like he's got super legs and not enough upper torso to balance it out. Oh, we can fix that real fast. Just going to. This is the power of Photoshop. You can edit whatever you want. It's awesome. So I feel that the torso needs to be buffed up a bit to match the whatever he's got from the bottom down. So click selected the area I want to change, control transform, and then right click and clicked on warp. That allows me to manipulate the pixels pretty well. And again, I'm just keeping the same proportions, but I'm just going to make him a bit more top heavy. Might need to change the head as well for that. Alright. He has a very big neck. Oh yeah, also the Adam sample. It should be kind of around here in the center, where you have the tendons from the neck to the collarbone should be around in sort of upper center. And now it's time for the arms. Yay! My favorite part. I really like the arm muscles. So as you can see, the arm muscle kind of wraps around the shoulder, wraps around the kind of merges with the pec muscles here, and then eventually merges down with the, I forgot what it's called. Not good with names, but I think the triceps? Was it the triceps? And then was this the deltoids? Anyways, it just merges down with the other arm muscles. So we're just going to use this example. So we start off with the collarbone, and as you can see, it kind of merges down, so we can represent that with a triangle shape like this, or kind of like, you know, those really old style baseball t-shirts where it's kind of, you have the sleeves and then it looks like this and it has a number on it. I really like those shirts. Anyways, it's kind of like this. So think of it as that, kind of like this, and then you have the muscles, the pec muscles, that goes down like this. And then we have the deltoid that merges into the other muscles. So I like to represent that by a little, like a squashed circle like this. So again, just gonna do it real fast for you guys. So think of the t-shirt, and then the pecs goes here. And then the circle, like this. So we have the circle, the pecs, and then the muscle right here. This is actually a landmark. You really have to, if you want the character to feel more anatomical and realistic, we have to indicate a bit of this muscle right here, and also this one if you can. And it's even better if you indicate some of that pec muscle that's merged into these two muscles. I'm so sorry. I have not taken any like anatomy class officially. I've always just looked at the images and like just copied after it until I feel I get it. I'm sorry for the lack of names. I probably don't sound very knowledgeable, but I'll try my best to kind of teach you guys what I know. I hope you guys get it. I mean, this is pretty good reference for you guys. So after I have this muscle right here, it ends just a little bit above the joint of your elbow. As you can see, this muscle is this muscle. In a more realistic setting, it's pretty, it doesn't reach all the way it just reaches a little bit above the elbow. So after that, let's do the wrist. The wrist is a little bit tricky. We can separate it by kind of divide that a little bit up by a line. And then the wrist is, I guess I could say it's slanted this way in terms of how the muscle shifts. So there's a bulge here and another one down here. But the thing is, this muscle, it overlaps it like this. And this muscle kind of gets overlapped by this guy right here. There's no good example right here, but kind of overlaps it like this. If you're a dude and you can look at your own hand, you can like put up your arm in front of your face and then make sure your palm is facing your face, and you can kind of look at the shape of your arm, and you'll notice that one side is bulging out bigger than the other. And anyways, I'm a girl, I'm looking at my arm right now, and the right side, my right side of the arm is bulging out a lot bigger. And this is the muscle that is overlapping the other one, so it's this one. Anyways, I'm not making any sense. I hope you guys still get it. Anyways, the important thing to keep in mind is if you at least show this muscle right here, it'll look good. Well, it'll look anatomical. And then the wrist. Oh, for the wrist, notice that there's a little bone that's protruding out like this. If you look at your hand, usually there's a bone that's sticking out like this. And then you have the fingers, right? So make sure the bulge is visible. You don't need to make the bulge too extruded, just make sure that you can see it. So we gotta keep that in mind and put a bulge here. And then the hand kind of tapers after that. For a hand, usually I like to represent it with basic shape. So first, the shape will be kind of like a deformed square, and then we can put the, my fingers are pretty much just lines, so thumb, finger, finger, finger. Yeah, finger, finger, finger. It's really simple for basic shapes. So we have this arm done right here. Now we can do the other arm. So keep that in mind. We have to make sure this muscle here really stands out. If it's a dude that's really buff, it needs to really stand out. And then again, it tapers into this guy here, and we can use the same shape, which is like a deformed oval. Oops, gotta make sure that it's kind of on the same line as the other side. And then this guy, the outer layer muscle overlaps what's here, and gotta make sure that the muscle is slanted like this. And again, the bone here, and this side you don't really see the fingers, so I'm not gonna show it too much. But yeah, this is pretty much all the landmarks you need to keep in mind. I'm going to mark it real fast, the ones that are important to show, with let's see, the blue color. So these are very important to the ribcage is definitely one of them, to show if you want it to seem realistic. This muscle here, you really need to show that. But I'm gonna show you guys the muscle with skin on top, what it looks like. And of course you need to show the knees as well, and this little guy here too, and the ankles is pretty important. Actually all of them are important, just some of them are more important than others. You need to really show the neck ligament, and then this as well. And these are pretty important, and this guy as well. The other important stuff to keep in mind are the pecs, the muscles here, the abdominal area where the abs are, and these muscles right here. And then the curved leg. Remember, the leg is not straight, it's slightly curved. Alright, so here we go. Just gonna put this in a separate landmarks steps. Alright. So now I'm going to do a cleaner pass on top of this so that it's not too rough, and I'm going to just go over the pointers. Alright, let's do this. Oops. Gotta make sure I have a... Oh, I'm on a separate... Should create another layer. Alright, so let's start with the head. Not really gonna focus on the head too much. So we have the ligament that attaches from the head, the neck to the collarbone, and then the muscle that kind of tapers down from the neck like this, and then we have the collarbone. The collarbone is actually a bit curved. Here kind of demonstrated pretty well like this. And it kind of tapers into the muscle here. So just a little bit curved. And actually the end of the collarbone kind of goes into, kind of merges into this line here. So think of the t-shirt, and this is where the collarbone ends. Oops. And then we have the muscle. And then the pecs, like this. And then we have the rib cage. Just going to indicate it slightly. And then we have the abs, the muscle abs. So realistically, underneath the muscle looks like this. However, when there's skin covering the abs, the muscles might look a little bit less like this and more random like this. So it's not perfectly aligned. Some of them are higher than the other side. And usually you can pretty much find a lot of reference of this if you just googled buff men. And then you'll see that their abs are not exactly even. That's realistically speaking. And so we have the end of the landmark for the rib cage. And now we're gonna do the hip. Make sure that this is noticeable. If your character is a buff dude or skinny dude, just gotta indicate this crease here. And then I kind of like to put a bit of a very, very thin and soft line here. That's the belly. And then we have the crotch, which ends here. And then start the legs. So for the legs, remember there's a muscle that is underneath this strap of muscle that starts from the hip, goes down like this. So when you're not drawing all the muscle strands and you're just layering skin on top, you'll only see a bit of definition here. Just make a little line here to kind of mark where the muscle is wrapping around the leg. And then there's a bump here for this guy, this muscle that is being cropped out by the knees. And then we have the knees. So the knees, we can represent it as this, and you can put a bit of definition to show that the muscle is kind of, there's muscle on top of the knees, but not too much. And then on the other side, it bulges out slightly, because remember when I said that your muscle will bulge out on the outside and not on the inside. Well, it bulges out a little bit, but it bulges out more on the outside. And then we can indicate slightly the muscle on the legs, just a little bit, not too much. And then it tapers down into this leg. So make sure that the muscle looks slanted like this, and make sure the bone is slightly curved. You have the other leg muscle there, and then you have the ankles, and then the feet. And then the other leg. Again, we have to make sure to show this muscle that's wrapped around. And then the knees. Following the landmarks of the other side, make sure that they're all even. And then the ankles, the sole of the feet. Just going to make this bulge out a bit more. Okay, now oops. What happened? Oh, I had something selected. Alright, so now onto the arms. Make sure this muscle pops out. And this little guy show a bit of definition at the bottom. And then the hand, not really gonna do much with the hand, just gonna make it very slight. And then again here, might need to make the abs a little bit bigger. So there you have it. This is a very crude version of where all the landmarks should be. His legs look really long. I'm just going to make it slightly shorter. Feel free to adjust the anatomy a bit, because the landmarks will always be in the same place anyways. It's just the proportions can be different, but the landmarks will always be where it will be. So there is no issue there. I'm just gonna do a really fast sketch over for female version. So for females, the landmarks are pretty much in the same area. The muscles, all the muscles are the same, only the bone structure is a little different, so the muscle will wrap around just a teeny bit differently. Not too much. Just gonna fix this here. Okay. So for the girls, we have a head. The neck is not as thick, but we still want to have the ligament attached, the tendons. So instead of a thicker attachment all the way here, we're just going to thin it out here. Like this. And then we have the collarbone. And instead of the muscles that attaches over here bulging out, the female one is a little bit more delicate, just swoops down like this. And we have the chest. So the chest ends here, technically. However, since female's breasts have fat in it, the more fat, well, the more it's big, the more it kind of sags down. So just gonna do a pretty average looking chest size. We still have this muscle here, so again, think of the shirt. Think of the shirt. Think of the shirt. She's a very buff girl. She looks like a muscle builder. Okay, so next is the rib cage. Pretty much the same as the guy's rib cage. Like this. And then the abdominal. And then her belly button. One thing I've noticed is that most guys, their belly buttons are kind of horizontal like this, and girls, they're vertical. But that's just the stereotypical and the standard. There are obviously exceptions out there, but this is what I observed. Girl, belly button guy. Alright. And we have the rib cage. And then the hip is a lot wider as well. So we can just make sure that it's wide enough. So usually the hip width is the length of a shoulder. So her hips should be this wide. There are obviously exceptions out there, like there are girls with bigger hips and there are girls with smaller hips, but usually the hips should be the length of the shoulder. And remember this here, for girls it's the hip bone. So you gotta make the hip bone pop out a little bit. So here, I'm making it a lot more obvious. And we can just going to draw a slight line there again to indicate the belly. So the hip bone is here. And then we have the crotch. For the legs, it's the same, just a little bit softer, not as bulgy. So again, we have this line here. We're just going to not make everything so bulgy, just very softly descend. And the knees don't need to be as rough. So something like this will do just fine. And again, there is the curvature of the tibia. Make sure that's there. And then this muscle right here, gotta make sure you indicate it, just not as big. And then you have the ankles on both sides. And then on the other side as well. Again, her knees are less defined than the male one, and the muscle are less less bulgy. Gonna fix the knee here a little bit. So it'd be something like this, and for the arms, still keep in mind we need to kind of indicate this muscle here if the girl is skinny or if the girl is fit. Otherwise, I'll show you guys later. But indicate that. But the arm will be a lot thinner and a lot more smooth. And then the bone here and the hand here. I'm going to make her arms a little bit more puff. Oops. And now the other side. So this is a girl. This is pretty basic stuff. From here, you can exaggerate the proportions to make it more fun to look at. This is not exactly realistic, but it gets the point around. The point across, sorry. So we have this. We have the female and the male version now. I'm just going to make the canvas bigger so I can put them down there. There we go. So just remember the landmarks and try to make them pop a little bit so you can see it and feel that anatomy. And here's some good references for the side and then the back. I'll do one back for you guys just to show you guys a few landmarks, but it'll be a little bit more rough. Because the first thing you learn is always the front view of the anatomy, and that's a good way to start. But yeah, just going to color it real fast for you guys so it looks more visual. So now I'm gonna show you guys the volume of these muscles. So this guy tapers down. Goes down like this. And this muscle is pretty round. And then it kind of joins into the pec muscle. Same here. So it kind of looks like this, and then it joins up with the pecs. And then we have the ribs, which is another important landmark. And sometimes you can see the definition here. And then we have the abs. And then we have a shadow that looks like this. If we look at from a side view, for the reason for this shadow is if we look at the side view, the back is like this, that's his muscle, that's his pecs. Remember, it connects to the muscle here. And then we have the rib cage that kind of pops out. Just going to exaggerate it so it's not exactly realistic. So the rib cage pops out, and then the abs, you have it here, and then it kind of goes down like this. And then you have your hip bone here, and then the butt. Like this. So this is the reason for this shadow, is that when you look at from the side, the stomach actually descends like this. If you look at here, it descends, and this is the reason for the shadow. Just gonna clean up my sketch a little bit for you guys. Alright. And then this side here. And now for the legs, just a bit of shadow indicating that muscle that wraps around. And then the knees, the legs, indicate it a little bit. Here as well. Indicate the bulge here, and then how this muscle wraps around the other one. Just gonna clean up some of my shadows to make them more clean for you guys to look at. So sometimes the shadow casted by the rib cage, you see how the rib cage is popping out? It will cast kind of like a shadow on the abs, and it will be in shadows. That's the reason for the shadow here. It's looking a little weird here. Alright, time for the next one. So for the girl, it's pretty much the same. So we have the neck that tapers down here, and then muscle that wraps around the neck and the shoulders, and then we have this. And then the chest area, the rib cage, and again, I'm gonna cast a bit of shadow on there. And then the belly, the waist, the hip bone, the crotch, I'm gonna indicate that muscle slightly. Alright, and then here, again, we're gonna try to indicate that the muscle here is wrapping around the other muscle. Excuse me. Usually there's a slight shadow here. Now I'm gonna go in and clean up some of those shadows. Alright, so there you have it. Actually, I think her leg is a little bit thin here. Just noticed. Oh. Just gonna zoom in and fix that. There we go. Okay, so there you have it. This is some of the landmarks, and if you indicate it, it will be very helpful. And if you guys have any questions on, if you guys are not sure how to shade or color or draw, it's always helpful to go on Google and look up some references like I did. So just search muscle anatomy, proportions, or any of those words would give you guys some really good references on Google. Oh yeah, I was gonna do a back for you guys, right? So let's do the back. Haven't drawn a back for a long time, but I've had a bit of practice, so just really roughly, not gonna go too into it. First off, we start off with a circle, and that is the skull. So you'll notice that the neck is connected to the skull. If you see here, it's connected. And then we have the shoulder. Remember that this line here, it's the back. It tapers down like this. I'm gonna do a 3/4 view, so show you guys better the form and stuff. And then the ear is right here, and the face is right here. This guy looks really beef. I think I'll extend the neck a bit more. So I'll just do a quick guide real fast, and we can again represent the torso with a square and the arms with squares, rectangles. And again, gotta keep in mind, the proportions. So the torso, and then we have the pelvis, but in this case, gotta mark where the butt is, so usually represented by something like this. And then make it a little bit higher. So let's say the navel's here, so the arms here, the elbows here, and then the arm goes down. Actually, I'm going to make the arm kind of stretched out like this. And then the crotch will probably be here. So I have the hand like this. And then we have the elbow, if we look at it like this. And then the hand is there. And making sure that he's going to be balanced. And then the leg. Remember the angry face? Gotta make sure that the muscles kind of like this. And then the sole of the feet. And then the other side. Finger face. Okay, so I have a really rough guide of the back. His head needs to be bigger. Okay, so this is pretty, very, 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 very rough guide. And again, I'm going to make sure that I indicate all the landmarks, such as muscle here, and the elbows is also a landmark, the arm, and how shaped, and then the legs. Let me just fix something. Alright, so we have a very rough guide of the back. I'm gonna bring it down here. And now I'm going to draw the back for the male first and then the female. So I'm just gonna do the cranium real fast, the ears, and then the back. So the back has a lot of muscles and it's got different different muscle flow. So just go on Google and look up a reference if you're not sure, or just look at this one as a guide. I'm just gonna copy this guy real fast so I can show you guys how to use reference. I'm sure you guys know how to use it, but I'm gonna show you guys the landmarks and such. So we have the head here. You'll notice that this line here kind of curves around the spine, so you can do that, and it stops where the butt will start. So let's say this is where my butt's gonna start, and then we have the muscle here like this, and then we can kind of see that the muscle kind of clips here. And thus sometimes if you look at muscle builders, you'll see some definitions here where the muscle is clipped out. Like you see they have folds in their muscle in the back when they flex, and that's pretty much what it is. And also they have a bit of muscle clipping on the side as well here. So something like this. And then we have the arm, and as you can see, the muscle here, it tapers into the back, and then there's also another muscle that is kind of tucked underneath this guy right here. So just going to make that a little bit obvious. And then we have the muscles here, as you can see. So there's a bit of definition here, and then it stops here. This line right here is this part. So it kind of merges in with the elbow, and you have more muscle that goes, it kind of wraps around the back. So this guy right here is pretty much, there's a muscle that is connected to this guy, and this is why sometimes you see, I'm just gonna do it real fast. This is the muscle here, and then you have this guy. Right here. This is the muscle, this one, that wraps around here, like this. And in the girl's arm, it probably looks like this. It's more soft. Like this. And now we have the back. Just gonna do a fist real fast. It looks funny. Actually, I'll just make him relax his hand, but really softly. Sorry about that. I went to do something. Now I'm back. So let's continue with the back. So we have to show it a little bit on the other side. And we have to indicate this muscle here. And there is the elbow. hand, sorry. And as you can see, there is a muscle that connects from the front to the back, and it tapers down to where the butt is. And if you look at the front view, this muscle here is actually this guy right here that's wrapped around underneath the armpit. I didn't exactly indicate it here, but it should be this right here. So let's do it. So from the armpit, it wraps around the back like this. Now we're not gonna make it too obvious, just enough to indicate that yeah, it's there. And then we have the belly. And then now we're gonna do the butt, the gluteus maximus. Like this. And then again, we have the bulge on the outside, because, yeah, as we talked about, the muscle tends to bulge on the outside and not on the inner thigh. And you can see this part right here, the muscle kind of splits in the center where the kneecap is kind of on the other side. So we're gonna do that. Like this. And remember, make sure the muscle is slanted. Remember the angry face. Hey guys, I'm back. I just went to eat something real fast because I was a little hungry. I haven't eaten all day, so I'm back. Alright, let's continue. So for the ankles, remember the angry face, ankles this way. The sole of the feet. And this one as well. The angry face. And then the sole of the feet. The head, and then a bit of the nose. Alright, so this is, wow, oops, I think I might have left some of that sketch on another layer. Oh, what the? Oops. It's really messed up. Ah, my layers are messy. Oh wait, oops. Okay, there we go. So that's a pretty rough back for the guys. I'll do a back for female version as well. So I'm just gonna bring the sketch over. let's go with the female back. It's very similar in terms of all the muscles. All the muscles are pretty much the same, just the hips are a bit larger and the gluteus maximus is a little bit more softer looking and plump. Gotta get that booty, right? So, and the next neck is a lot thinner. So we can start off with a more slender figure. And the arc in back is a lot more delicate and less bulgy. So the back is a lot more slender and more tapering towards the middle. And we still have the muscles, remember? So just gonna indicate that a little bit. So this guy here goes in here and there's a bit of muscle tucked away underneath. And you have the elbows. And then again we have that muscle here. Just gonna show it slightly, not too much. We have the breast, the rib cage, and you have to make sure that the hips is about the same width as the shoulder, so a bit bigger. And as you can see, the butt is not as sculpted as the dude's butt. It's my vocabulary is hilarious. I don't know many muscle names or gluteus maximus. It's pretty much I think the most complicated name that I know of for muscles. Alright, so we want to draw the legs. The legs are, remember the angry face. Always remember the angry face. And then the sole of the feet. Again, the angry face. And then the angry face. Always remember the angry face. Alright. Let's take a look. We might need to adjust it a little bit. She's got thunder thighs. She's got very, very big thighs. I think the girl should be I can make the girl a little shorter as well. And perhaps a little shorter as well in the torso area. Like that. I'll fix that later. And actually make her neck a little bit thinner. And the head a little bit bigger as well. And her shoulders a little bit smaller as well. Just some tweaks that I think would look better for a female back. So girls have everything a little bit more narrower and smoother compared to the guys that have more of a sculpted figure, especially their back, their muscular back. So we have the hands, the arms, sorry. And then we have the hands like this. Just fixing some of the areas I think needs fixing. Alright, I think her hips needs to be... might need a bit of change. Actually, her head needs to be bigger. Okay. Shoot. I think it would help if I gave her some hair. Usually, life drawing, the easiest is a ponytail. The classic ponytail. Let me just fix her hair a little bit. I decided to remove the muscle details for the female bat because it was looking a little bit too beef. And yeah, now it's looking a little bit like a little more like a normal girl. The muscle was not working. And maybe make her waist a little bit more plump. Like this. Almost there, almost done. Just making the head a little bigger. Alright, so there we are. The back for both male and female. The female was a little less sculpted. Females in general, their backs are a little less sculpted. As you can see, the male has a lot of sculptedness and a lot of harsh angles, while the female is more smooth and rounded. I'll just leave the back here for reference for you guys. Girl back. And this is the sketch for the back. Just gonna put it here. And now I'm just going to, whoops. I'm going to shade it real fast for you guys, so you can kind of get a good idea of the form better. So we have the muscle here, a bit of muscle there. So on muscle builders, you often see indentations like these. And the reason why is because there's muscle underneath and the skin's covering it. And this is how it looks with skin covering on top of those muscles. And here's the muscle, the calves, I think, the calf muscles that you see on the other side as this little bulge right here. There we go. Man, he is like super. He has a lot of muscle definitions. I might go back to smooth some of it out. Just gonna erase all of that definition because I think it's a little too much. And of course, the back is curved, so gotta show that through shadow lightning. And then the butt shape. This. And then the of course, the arms. His arms are a little bit bent, so this side of his arm will be in light, and I'm showing a bit of bend with shadow as it kind of fades into he's bending his arm. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyways, so there we go, the back and the bottom, the legs, and the calves, the shin, the knuckles, the ankles. Anyways, and then the head. Like this. And now for the girl, it's pretty much the same principle. So the back should be in shadow. What? No way! Oh, have to make into multiply. So the back is in shadow. You have some shadow on the butt as well, the calves, and then her elbow down because she's bending her arms a little bit. Her shoulder blades. The buttocks. And then the legs. So the guy's buttocks is a little bit more rectangles, while the girl's butt is a little bit more round. The girl's butt is a little bit more round because the hips are a lot larger, thus giving it more of a round shape. I think I might have made her hips a little too big, but you guys get the point. Let me just do one last thing. I'm gonna shade the side of her legs. Okay, so there you have it, the back. These backs do not represent everybody, they're just me exaggerating some of the bits for you guys to see that, to see clearly some of the landmarks and the anatomy spots that we should have in your drawings. So obviously a real person wouldn't have this kind of back unless they are very beef. Otherwise you won't be able to see all these indents and stuff. But it's good to know that those muscles are there. And if you look at here, it indicates pretty well to you guys. And I think I made the guy's butt a little bit too tight, so I'm just gonna fix that. Anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much it for the back. I hope that was helpful to you guys. I kind of feel like redoing the front guy and front girl view because I think it feels a little too rigid. The skeleton that I used to indicate the landmarks probably wasn't the best skeleton to use to draw the 3/4 views because it's very stiff, and that's why this looks very stiff. I think, sorry about that, I grazed my pen against the mic. I think I will redo the front view so that it looks a lot better. Like the backs are more 3/4-ish, like it feels a lot more 3/4-ish, while the front seems a little stiff, so I might fix that. Alright, let's do it. I'm gonna do it for you guys. So it's all pretty and nice and not awkward looking. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to review the landmarks with you guys. But first I'm just gonna do a sketch again for it. It's always good to start out with a very, very basic sketch. So this one is gonna be pretty. The pose will be a little bit more dynamic. What I mean by dynamic is, a lot more of twist and turn in the body and stuff like that. And again, we're going to start off with a rectangle, of course, or square for the torso. And then we have a pelvis, which looks like underwear, of course. You can come up with your own shapes, of course, whatever helps you visualize. Sometimes I like to use triangle, sometimes a very simple underwear icon will help as well. So this one will be a girl. And we can use this. And then the feet. The shapes, the pose does not matter. Well, it does. Just make sure that your character is balanced. If you do this, it's balanced because we have one leg on both sides of the line divided. And then, of course, gotta mark where the wrist is, which is the end of the crotch, remember guys? And if your character's arm is kind of lifted a little bit, you can kind of pull back that a bit, because her arm is lifted slightly, like this side here. So you don't need to exactly match the wrist line with the crotch, because she's lifting her arm a little bit on the back. So there we go. This is, and her hip is kind of a little bit like this. So as you can see, it's also good to kind of indicate some action lines. Her shoulders like this, her hips like this. So that's good. And this is gonna be my female pose, and then let's do one for the male pose. And again, we start up with a sketch, very basic shape sketch, and of course we can use this shape for the neck, and then 2 triangles for the shoulder muscles. And again, I'm gonna go with a simple square-ish for the upper body. This guy's gonna be really, oops. And then for the guy's pelvis. For the guy, actually I'll just make him chilling there, I guess. For the guy, remember the shirt which connects the shoulder blades with the muscle, what's it called, bicep, deltoid. And then we have the other muscle, which I like to represent with a oval. And then you have the hands here. Shoulder this way, hips this way. And of course, making sure that my character is balanced. And again, the muscle, remember, the muscle here that kind of wraps around. And then we have the knees, and then the feet. And we have making sure that the feet feels grounded. And of course we can check the wrist, make sure that the wrist is where the crotch ends. Alright, so we have our guy and girl pose, and I think it's a lot better than what we had before. So let's do it. So turning the opacity down so I can do another pass on it. Let's start with the female. So let's give her a haircut as well. I'll do a pretty basic one. Get her face, and then the top of her head, and then maybe a ponytail. Actually, let's do, I don't know. Actually, let's do that, and a ponytail. And then the neck, remember we have to show the tendons on the neck, like this. And then tapers down to the shoulder blades, and still we have to keep in mind the shirt. Remember the shirt. Oh gosh, wait. Her shoulder blades are too curved. It should be a little bit curved. And then we have the chest. Instead, we're going to keep the shirt concept here. And then the chest. And then indicate the rib cage. And then the belly button. And don't forget the hips. And the hip bones. And then the crotch area. And remember, there's a muscle that goes like this, right? But we don't want to make it too obvious, so something like this would be just as effective. So we gotta make the impression that, just make a slight indication that that stripe of muscle is there. And then of course we have the leg that is not completely straight. Remember, it's slightly curved. And then of course we have the legs. Make sure it's the angry face. And then we have the other leg as well. She has a very long torso. I might change that later. Just noticed that. Sometimes your sketch might look a lot better than your more refined piece, but that's okay. You can edit that later. And then the arm. Actually, I'm going to make her torso a little bit more meatier. So that it matches her more voluptuous bottom. So sometimes it's okay to just tweak it a bit. And let's see, remember this muscle? It overlaps the other one. Going to change up the way I draw the feet. Again, we have to indicate the hip bone. I kind of changed it a few times, but I think this time is the right one. Yeah, I think this is okay. Let's just flip that real fast. Okay, let's see. This part should be a little bit tilted this way. A good thing to do is just flip your image from time to time. That way, you might see mistakes that you couldn't see if you were on the other side. It's really good to use if you're not really sure if what you're doing is good or right. You just flip it a little bit and you can kind of see. So the ribcage is here. So now it looks more logical. I think I will change her hands as well. And I think this arm should be a little bit shorter. Just because she's kind of lifting it up in the back and it doesn't exactly apply to the wrist meeting the crotch. If your hand is a little bit lifted, then it won't be matching perfectly to where the crotch is. Actually, I'm going to redo this hand. And again, keeping in mind everything, the landmarks and such. This muscle that wraps around. The t-shirt, remember? T-shirt. The baseball t-shirt. That it's kind of like this. The muscle. Sorry for the boobs, it's really rough job. There we go. I think this should be fine. Just gonna do one last thing. I'm going to clean it up a little bit to make it a little bit cleaner and more nicer to look at. So this is the basics, but obviously the shape will depend on your character. Some characters are more top heavy, some characters are more square, and it's up to you to experiment with the shape, but as long as you include the landmarks, it will make sense. Even though you're gonna exaggerate the hell out of it, like Jessica Rabbit's, even if Jessica Rabbit is a big stylized cartoon, she still has those landmarks, such as the shoulder blades, the rib cage, the pelvis, the hip bone, etc. Alright, so this is the female. As you can see, she's very hip heavy. She's got a very big hip. And her leg, actually, I'll thin it down a little bit. And now for the guy. Let's see. I'm gonna give the guy the usual haircut. Oops. And again, we have the tendon that connects from the neck to the collarbone. And again, we have the t-shirt lines. And then the neck muscles. And then we have the pecs. We have the rib cage. And then the belly button. And then we have the hips here. No, actually, wait. The hips should be... We have the crotch here. So the hips should be here. And then have the muscle that wraps around like this. and then the muscles here, and then the knees here. Of course, you gotta keep in mind the angry face, so the ankles like this. And again with the muscles. The ankles. And then the sole of the feet. His leg, his knee here is slightly hyperextending. And then the muscles. And then the hand. Okay. I think this looks better. Just gonna do what I did with the female and then gonna flip it to see if I can spot any errors that I can make better. First off, just going to make this side a little bit lower to match the other side, and maybe this pack needs to be down here a little bit more. Just a tad. And also just going to move this guy over here. And also I'm gonna have to move the crotch as well. I'm just going to indicate a bit of blood, but on this side. Actually, no, not too much, just a little bit. And push in his the rib cage a bit more and kind of make sure it feels like he's turned this way, 3/4 that way. Before it was kind of ambiguous what side he was standing, so now it's a little bit it's a little bit more clear. And I'm just going to make his arm a little thicker on this side. There we go. I might need to fix this part now. Just making sure the shape is there. So the hip is here, so this side it should be there. And actually I'm gonna try to see if it looks better if I made this droop a little down here. Yep, I think it works better like that. And maybe even make his leg a bit thicker. Okay, so now I think I'm happy with the results for both male and female. And again, I stuck to the landmark, so everything there is landmark that's here. Well, not landmark, sorry. Made all the anatomical landmarks, which is the areas where you should indicate it if you want it to look realistic, or at least anatomically correct. So we got the deltoid, the bone on the hand there, the knees, the muscles here, the line that goes there, and the back leg muscle that is showing through on the side in front of this little bump right here. And as you can see, the female version doesn't have it as much, but there's still a little indication of it, just so that we can kind of feel that it's there. So yeah, now it's time to shade it a little bit. Time to shade it slightly. God damn it. There we go. Alright, let's do this. So again, there is a muscle here, so we gotta show it. And again, this side of the arm overlaps the other side, so we gotta show that with the shadow. And as you can see, there is a bulge here. And of course we have the deltoid that is there, and then the muscle down here as well, the bulge on the side. We have to show you on the other side, and of course we need to show that this side is overlapping the other side. I think that arm might be a little shorter. Might be a little too short. Just gonna fix that real fast. There we go. And then the rib cage is here, and the ab muscles here. Like this. And then indicate the muscle that's wrapping around the legs here. And of course the knees. And then the legs. Indicate the muscle there. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Sorry about that. So again, just shading very roughly and indicating the shadow and highlighted area. As the pecs are popping out, it's casting a shadow on the rib cage. The rib cage is also popping out, so it's casting a little bit of a shadow on the abdominal area. And then the stomach also has a bit of a dip, so this is why there's this shadow here. And then there's the crotch, of course. And then we have the gluteus maximus around there. And yeah, that's pretty much a very rough representation of where all the anatomical landmarks should be. And if you guys indicate it just slightly, it will make your characters look a lot more realistic. Not realistic exactly, depending on how exaggerated you make the proportions, but enough to kind of tell people, oh, I know my anatomy, at least by a little bit. I myself still have a lot to learn, but this is what I know for the landmarks that I like to use. So just passing down what I know to you guys, and it's up to you guys to kind of, if you don't really agree with my landmarks, you can go look up for yourself, judge for yourself, or make whatever, customize your landmarks pretty much based on a real life picture though, because I observe from a lot of anatomical books and also some real life pictures. This is what I learned from it. And obviously different artists have different ways of doing the landmarks and such. This is just what I've learned and what I'm kind of used to, so you guys can use the stuff that use my landmarks, or you can just look up a real life picture and see what else you can learn, because I'm sure there's a lot more that I did not cover in this voiceover. Anyways, if I did cover everything in more detail, it'd take a lot longer, because anatomy is not a one day lesson. It's more like a whole semester. I had a semester of anatomy class in college, and we covered a lot of stuff like bones, muscles, gesture drawing, and stuff like that, which obviously we can't cover here because that takes like a month. But I'm hoping to be able to kind of maybe in the future create an online class, just like for all my on Patreon, and then maybe have like one live stream session every week or something to just talk to you guys about anatomy or whatever questions you guys have. But right now I really don't have the time. Still wanna kind of finish up writing my comic storyline so I can get that rolling for you guys. But it's so hard to find time, and I just started going to gym because you know how artists are. They just sit on their chair and draw, and that's what I did for like 5 years, and now I think I'm getting out of shape. I literally can't run for more than a minute, so I started going to the gym, but it's very tiring. It's rewarding though. I mean, I think I'm getting in shape. So yeah. I would recommend you guys to get out and do some exercise if you're like a shut-in artist like me, what I used to be. It's good to do some exercise. It feels nice. It feels kind of pumps you up for more drawing, you know? There we go. Alright. So that's that. Okie dokie. I need to make more space for these two now. Just gonna put them at the bottom. Alright, so just gonna do a quick recap for you guys before I end this tutorial. A good idea to study shapes and landmarks or any anatomy is just to look up references. Go on Google, search up muscles or proportions, human anatomy, etc. Whatever you can find on Google will be helpful. And just use those references and practice, observe them, or even take that image, open it on Photoshop, overlay it with a white and turn down the opacity and kind of just trace over them to learn them. It's fine to trace as long as you learn something from them and that you don't exactly copy it. So sometimes I would take something like this and I would just trace on it just to kind of get the general shape, and that would help me. So yeah. Important landmarks. The rib cage is very important. The leg, the strain of muscle down here that's kind of wrapping around the leg is very important. The knee is important. The leg muscle right here is very important as well. So yeah, just make sure you guys have that. That might be a cat. So pretty much that's it. And here's a good reference for anatomy proportion. Use that as a guideline, but don't take it too literally, as human beings have different heights and we won't be always 8 head unit high. We could be 6, 7, or even 9. 9 is for superheroes, by the way. And then here we have the last thing. I just refined it and cleaned up the lines for you guys to see. And again, from the side views, it looks like this. So keep in mind, when you shade, you have to keep in mind what dips and what is popping out that casts shadow. So yeah, keep that in mind. And here's a really quick back version of both male and female. Females have a more rounder shape and more fluffy, as male have more of a sculpted look. If they are fit and beefy, you will see that very commonly. And female, when they're in shape, they're still kind of refined and round looking, just a little bit more definition to them, like this, but prettier. Anyways, so yeah, another reason to sign up for the gym is that you get to see a lot of people that are in shape, and you can kind of secretly glance at their muscles hoping they don't notice, which is what I do sometimes, because there's a lot of beef guys at the gym, and you can kind of secretly observe like what artists do usually, and that will help you gather a visual library, which then you can reminisce and use it for whatever characters you want to use it for. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a very long tutorial. Well, for me, I was sitting here the whole time. My ass is getting a little sore. But anyways, hope you guys learned something, and I hope you guys look up references. If you don't know what to do, or if you don't know how to paint something, always references. And of course, practice is key as well. I recommend 30 to an hour of practice if you are short on time, at least 30 minutes. And yeah, keep it up, guys, okay? Keep practicing. Alright, see you guys later. Take care.